Episode 44, and the title is Resurrection. Jesus was raised from the dead, which is incredible. It's unbelievable. They have condemned him to death. The Jews condemned him to death. They handed him over to the Romans to be crucified. Pontius Pilate signed the order of the execution. Roman soldiers put nails through his hands and a spear in his side. When they wanted to check if he's really dead or not, and only a trickle of water and blood came out of his side. Not a flow of blood by a pumping heart, no. Only, so he was dead already. So there was no necessity for them to break his legs or bash in his skull, what they sometimes did to simply finish it off. Because the crucifixion was a very cruel thing. You were nailed through your ankles and your knees were bent. You were hanging on your arms. So when you do that for some time, you start to suffocate, to choke. So you want to have more air, your lungs want to breathe. So what you do, you try to push yourself up a little bit to get, but then with your pierced ankles and your bended knees, that's even more painful. So it was a horrible way to die. And sometimes they wanted to finish it off quickly, and they took an iron bar, broke the legs, so that you could not push yourself up anymore, and then you suffocated. So when medical people look at Jesus dying, they say it was a combination of a rupture of the heart and suffocation of the lungs that brought him to death. And it was fulfillment of prophecy. Not a bone of him would be broken. Anyway, so he was really dead, and he died in a horrible way. For centuries, the Christian church blamed the Jews for that, but it is totally unfair. It caused a river of Jewish blood fleeing in the lands of Christianity. We all killed Jesus, and the actual crucifixion was done by the Roman soldiers. They took the responsibility. So the non-Jews killed Jesus. Anyway, then he was buried. And he was buried in a typical Jewish way. You can read it in John 19. There were these two people, Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, the one who came during the night to have a discussion with Jesus. You can read it also in the Gospel of John. They asked permission to take the body and bury it. And Pontius Pilate gave his permission, and so they took the body and then buried him in a very Jewish way. They had with them a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds, which is quite a lot of the stuff. And then taking Jesus' body, they wrapped it with the spices, so they had the linen wrapped around his body and a separate piece of linen around his head. And during that, they added the oils and the myrrh and the aloe and the spices to prevent the stench of a decaying body. Then they took the body, put it in the grave, which was a cave hewn out of the rocks, with a kind of a couch with a pillow part, put the body on that with the head resting on the pillow part of the couch, then took a stone, rolled it in front of the cave to keep the animals out, and that was it. And then early on the first day on the week, Jesus was a pious Jew. So on Shabbat, the seventh day, nothing happened. Also not in the grave. But early on the first day of the week, they went to the grave. There was this woman, and there's no body. What happened? She rushes to the city. Peter, John, what is she talking about? We have to see it for ourselves. So they rush from the city to the cave. John is first, but he does not enter. He looks into the cave and starts thinking. Then Peter comes. And Peter is Peter. He dashes in. What's happening here? Grave linen? What is this? And then John enters. But he had already started to think. Finally, the other disciple who had reached the tomb first also went inside. He saw and believed. What did he see that made him believe that bodily resurrection had taken place? What was there to see? Only the linen. But how did he see it? Some translations said neatly folded up. But when you find linen neatly folded up, would that make you believe that bodily resurrection had taken place? I don't think so. You would think, what happened here? Who did this? Where's the body? And when you have the linen like a bundle somewhere in a corner, again, you would think, what happened here? Who did this? Where's the body? But he saw and believed. What did he see? I think he saw the linen untouched. These spices, myrrh, aloe, etc., dry up, give the linen a certain stiffness. And so in the shape of the body, with the separate linen separated from the body linen on the pillow part, untouched, maybe a little bit sunk in, because no body inside. Like a kind of empty cocoon, so to speak. If you see that, there's only one explanation. He must have risen through the linen. How that is possible, you don't understand. But it's the only explanation for what you see. And suddenly you realize, if linen doesn't keep you, then a stone also does not keep you. So the stone was not rolled away to let Jesus out, but to let us in, to look. So linen doesn't keep you, a stone doesn't keep you, and later he's in a room with all the doors closed, standing in their midst. And they say, what is this? It's a phantom, it's a ghost, a hallucination or whatever. He said, no, I'm not. Here, touch, feel. A ghost doesn't have flesh and bones like I have. And they still. He said, do you have anything to eat? And they give him a piece of fried fish and a honeycomb, and he ate it in front of his eyes. He says to Thomas, put your hand in my side. Here, touch me. When he appears to Mary, there's a kind of mistranslation. He doesn't say that, don't touch me. He says, don't hold me. You can touch me because I'm real, but don't hold me as if things will be again as they were before. No, that has changed, but I'm absolutely real. And so Jesus rose from the dead, bodily resurrection, with a fantastic resurrection body that apparently can cross over between our dimensions and the other dimensions that surround us. And one day we will do the same, maybe, because we will have the same glorious resurrection body that Jesus has.